AM radio, an op-ed column, and Fox News is not enough. I want a center-right nation to fight for its soul, and its soul is represented in the arts. Its soul is represented in a world in which media is everything. AM radio is the lowest form of communication. It's tinny, it's not robust, it's not Avatar. I want Avatar. I want the right to enter the world of media to the extent and invest in media the way that the left does.
The fake media is trying to silence us, but we will not let them, because the people know the truth. The fake media tried to stop us from going to the White House, but I'm president and they're not.
You're listening to the Curt Schilling Podcast, a Breitbart.com podcast. The podcast starts now. Here's Curt with today's headlines.
Hey guys, welcome. Podcast number 7, the Lucky 7, and it is lucky in every way. Today is going to be Diamond and Silk. Shonda will actually be here, help me catch up with Diamond and Silk. And then we're going to have a little Second Amendment roundtable with my two favorite people, AWR Hawkins and Mark Walters. Lots to do, lots to get to today, but I want to get right into this. I want to give you an audio timeline of the insanity we're dealing with now. So as I understand this, what's coming out now, Sarah Huckabee Sanders went into the Red Hen restaurant. The owner pulled her to the back and politely told her that the staff there did not want to serve her. She politely offered to leave. She did with her family. That was all I'd ever heard about that interaction. Apparently, the owner of the Red Hen followed Sarah Huckabee Sanders to another restaurant, continued heckling them. So all is not what it seems, which we knew. But I want you to listen to Sarah Huckabee Sanders' statement to the press because she didn't say anything. They asked her about it because somebody leaked the story. But here's her response to the media. Listen to this.
Many by now have heard that I was asked to leave a restaurant this weekend where I attempted to have dinner with my family. My husband and I politely left and went home. I was asked to leave because I work for President Trump. We are allowed to disagree, but we should be able to do so freely and without fear of harm. And this goes for all people regardless of politics. Some have chosen to push hate and vandalism against the restaurant that I was asked to leave from. A Hollywood actor publicly encouraged people to kidnap my children. And this weekend, a member of Congress called for people to push back and make clear to those serving their country in this administration that they are not welcome anywhere, anytime, for anything. Healthy debate on ideas and political philosophy is important. But the calls for harassment and push for any Trump supporter to avoid the public is unacceptable. America is a great country, and our ability to find solutions despite those disagreements is what makes us unique. That is exactly what President Trump has done for all Americans by building a booming economy with record low unemployment for African Americans and Hispanics, the defeat of ISIS, and the ongoing work to achieve peace on the Korean Peninsula.
Mic drop. Boom. That is a woman. For any of you confused, any of you phony-ass feminists out there, that's what a woman sounds like. Class, dignity, respect, independent, all those things. She is literally the face of the Trump administration, which makes liberals sick to their stomach, and so she's being refused service, which we argue about. And you can debate. I think it's stupid, but I also recognize it as a private business. It's their right to serve whoever they want, as long as they're ready to sit for the repercussions. I'm just hoping that there's justice and this company goes out of business, number one. We're in a different time now. We're in a dangerous time, and here's why. I want you to listen to Maxine Waters' comments when she was being questioned about the treatment of Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Listen to this is her original comment that started all the uproar. Listen up.
We want it done now. We're going to insist on it. If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Already, you have members of your cabinet that are being booed out of restaurants, who have protesters taking up at their house, who's saying no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. And guess what? We're going to win this battle because while you try and quote the Bible, Jeff Sessions and others, you really don't know the Bible. God is on our side. On the side of the children, on the side of what's right, on the side of what's honorable, on the side of understanding that if we can't protect the children, we can't protect anybody. And so let's stay the course. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
So I'm going to follow that up immediately with her defense of those comments. Listen to what she said yesterday about the comments she said she didn't make.
I believe in peaceful, very peaceful protests. I have not called for the harm of anybody. This president has lied again when he's saying that I called for harm to anyone. I am having sleepless nights about the children, and really, I don't want to engage constantly with this lying president. This Don the Con man will say anything. He is the one that's responsible for promoting violence.
So there you have it. You have her calling for public harassing and then saying she didn't ask anybody, incite anything. I said it yesterday, and I'm going to keep saying it. Her and her actions and her words and things like that are going to get people killed. I want you to listen to Ari Fleischer, who is former press secretary, unfortunately a Yankee fan, who I had the honor of meeting in 2001 or 2002 after we won the World Series at the White House. Good guy. Listen to him talking about this whole situation.
This is one of society's most obvious moments to say enough is enough. You don't talk like that. You don't engage in these type of practices. And today, Maxine Waters, when she tried to hold a news conference to address what she said, and she basically denied that she called on people to harass others. No peace, no rest. And so she still is sticking by what she's done. Now, Senator Schumer, to his credit, the Democratic minority leader, went on the floor of the Senate and really condemned her. Nancy Pelosi put out a milquetoast condemnation of Maxine Waters. But frankly, Democrats in the House of Representatives, where she serves, all need to get asked, do you agree with Maxine Waters? The press needs to have a feeding frenzy among the left, as they always do on the right, where they try to ask Republicans, do you agree with this or that somebody else said? It's her turn now. Yeah. And frankly, I'm at the point where if she continues to double down, the House ought to take up a motion to censure her, because this does lead to violence. And if you remember, the Family Research Center, that was also the victim of a gunshot attack from an activist who didn't like what the Family Research Center stood for. Sean made the point about Congressman Scalise on the baseball field. And don't forget, during the campaign in 2016, the GOP headquarters in North Carolina was firebombed. This does lead to things that go too far, and you need to stand up now for civil discourse, and it's up to the Democrats to lead that charge.
I mean, this is a consistent pattern. This is who they are. Steve Scalise, a softball practice, the shooter had a list of Republican politicians he was going to kill. The violence is ratcheting up, and it's not going to get any better. But you heard Sarah's response, and again, classy as usual. And as a father of a young lady, I would not be as calm as Mike Huckabee is. Listen to his response to this, and it's much calmer than many should have been or would have been.
For Maxine Waters to say that she didn't say what she's on camera saying maybe tells us everything we know about Maxine Waters right now. I think my daughter handled this very, not only skillfully, but I think respectfully, and she did it in a classy way. She didn't scream, she didn't yell, she didn't make a scene, she didn't demand to be fed. She politely got up and she left. But let's keep in mind why she was asked to leave. She wasn't loud, she wasn't belligerent, she didn't throw food on anyone, she wasn't drunk. She got thrown out because she works for the President of the United States, who was elected by the people of the United States. When you deny one person's liberty because you don't like what they say or what they do or what they think, then we all are losing our liberty over that, Shannon, and that's what ought to be of concern to people.
And that's the beauty of social media, if there is a beauty. It is that they can't hide from the things they say, even though they come on and try and tell you they didn't say them after they did. But I do have the first solution to all of this, and I need you all to remember this website, OmarNavarro.com, OmarNavarro.com. Omar Navarro is the gentleman who will be running against Maxine Waters in the upcoming election in the 43rd District. He is a Latino. I have had him on my show. He is born in Inglewood, the son of immigrants, legal immigrants. He is a true conservative. He's a Trump conservative. He's an American conservative. He needs to win this next election to get rid of that repulsive human being known as Maxine Waters. And she's almost like a skit, a caricature. You couldn't make her up because she is at the extreme. Again, I do love how she lies about the things she said the day before. The left, honest to God, doesn't believe we have televisions or radios or we understand how to work them, or the internet or Google. Because she's on TV one day. And you know what? It's like everything else. I mean, we sit around and point out the fact that they're doing exactly what they're screaming about. I mean, the example I always use is Antifa. Antifa is short for anti-fascist. It's a group of people claiming to be anti-fascist made up of people that are all fascist. You know, it's almost a Joseph Goebbels, Hitlerish Third Reich propaganda plan. Make the lie big enough and people can't disbelieve it. And that's what we're dealing with. The left doesn't understand what the term Nazi actually is or means because they're acting exactly like Nazis. And I said this the other day, the people at the Red Hen, the employees, apparently she was proud of the fact that she has employees across the LGBTQ spectrum, whatever other letters go there, which is great. Nobody cares, but that's great. That's something all the liberals care about. But that they came to her and said they didn't want to serve her. Clearly, this was more than that because she called Sarah back. Sarah agreed to leave. She left with her family. The restaurant owner followed her family to the next restaurant and heckled her in that restaurant. I said it yesterday. Somebody, and God help us if it happens. I hope it better not. But somebody is going to kill somebody. There's going to be a public confrontation, and it's going to be because of Maxine Waters calling for this stuff. And then Maxine Waters is going to lead a march on Washington for our Second Amendment rights because it was a gun. Just insane, stupid, ignorance, all of it. In their own words, you just heard the sound bites. You heard her say what she said she didn't say. Then she said she didn't say what she said. Here's the thing I keep trying to tell people. Black, white, yellow, red, gay, straight, bi, tri, I don't care, whatever the hell you are, atheist, Mormon, Christian, pro-life, pro-choice. You can be any one of those things and more and be a conservative. And I don't think that's being buried. And lastly, I have to play this, and we're going to go to a break. We got Diamond and Silk after this. So Jim Acosta is just turned into a heap of garbage. He's ruined. He's part of the station that's ruined itself over the last 2.5 years. He's consistently tried to be the news story, and he's a clown. He does it in the press room like an idiot, and he's done it other places. I want you to listen to the crowd in the background as Jim Acosta tries to report to Wolf Blitzer on CNN.
Now, one sign of just how far these separated children have been removed from their parents. Consider where we are in South Carolina, Wolf. There are a handful of those separated children who are being cared for in foster homes in this state more than 1,000 miles away. Of course, President Trump will be here later on tonight campaigning for the man who wants to be the governor of South Carolina for another 4 years, Henry McMaster. And as you can hear behind me, Wolf, the crowd is very fired up. We have about a couple thousand people in this room so far. They are letting the press corps here know exactly how they feel about what we're doing here, Wolf.
All right, Jim Acosta on the scene for us. Thank you very much.
No, Jim, they weren't letting the press corps know. They were letting you know they want you to go home. Go home, Jim. Go home, Jim. That wasn't them talking to the press corps. That was telling you specifically, get your ass out. That's what they were doing. But they were doing it in a peaceful way, which is how it's supposed to work. Anyway, they are known in their personal lives as Lynette Harding and Rochelle Richardson. But to all of us, they are Diamond and Silk, and they are some just God-fearing, amazing women who are going to join me next, and my wife Shonda will join me as well.
Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlow.
Censorship is a key issue here, particularly for people on the right. Do you think it was addressed adequately?
Definitely not. It was useful to name check Diamond and Silk. It was useful to check even politicians who had campaign ads that were shut down. But in every case, Zuckerberg was allowed to essentially dismiss the case and move on.
Breitbart News Daily, weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Patriot 125.
You're listening to the Curt Schilling Podcast. Once again, here's Curt Schilling.
welcome back, folks. I am absolutely honored, first off, to have my wife, Shonda, here with me. Say hello.
Hello.
And their names are Lynette and Rochelle, but I love their stage names, Diamond and Silk. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning. We are magnificent.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
I like that you're Diamond and Silk. I'm thinking that maybe Curt should start calling me Sparkle for the rest of the show.
Wow. All right. Well, Sparkle. So, ladies, first of all, thank you so much. I know you're busy. I'm glad you're busy. I think what you're doing and what you've done, I found it fascinating. Research is something I love to do. I don't ever like to be unprepared. I did not know you guys were former Democrats, which I find to be awesome, because it always seems they go from left to right. Nobody ever goes from right to left.
That's right.
Right. Yes, we were lifelong Democrats because we were conditioned. But we thought when Donald Trump came along, we found that just because you black, it didn't mean you had to vote Democrat.
That's right.
And what we did, we just got off of that, what we call Democratic plantation. We switched our party to Republican to vote for Donald Trump in the primaries and then the general election.
That's right.
The quote I love, after you heard Trump speak, you said it was on and popping.
Don't you love
Do you know what I love, though, is this generation of kids. It's amazing to me that they get all their news from podcasts and stuff like that, and now it needs to be entertaining. And I think that, like, did you guys just decide one day, you know what, we're going to do a podcast, or did somebody say, you have to share this because this is what we want to hear? We want to hear the truth. We want to be entertained by it. And we want to be able to find it.
And let me jump in. I just want to add to this. The reason I think you guys are what you are is because you are who we are. You are middle America. You are the everyday American. You worked your asses off to get where you are in life. You came from a good family. Listen, I don't care what color you are or who you worship or any of those things. As long as you're a law-abiding American citizen, you're fine.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Listen, first of all, we didn't know nothing from nothing. We wasn't trying to do nothing or start nothing. It was, we all had already had our little YouTube channel back in 2014, December of 2014. We put out a few videos, maybe one or two. But then 2015 rolled around. Donald Trump was announcing. I was looking at it. This is Diamond. I called my sister. I said, girl, cut on your TV. Donald Trump is announcing he's running for president. That's what she did. She called me back halfway through. She said, girl, this is going to be the next president of the United States. And we thought nothing else of it.
That's right.
But we noticed how the left-wing media started throwing him under the bus and calling him out of his names. So that's when we started speaking out about it on our YouTube channel with 10 people. We just didn't know everybody was going to hear it. That's just how it was.
Hey, maybe that's what I need to do because I can't get the 4 inside my house to hear me. Maybe I need to go into a YouTube channel so that they can hear it. The one thing I wanted to ask is talking about Sarah Sanders this weekend and what happened. Does that happen to you?
No,
no,
absolutely not. No.
Nobody approaches you?
Let me tell you something. What we're not going to do is we're not going to go back to the 50s and the 60s. You know, when the Democrats did not want black people to eat at the lunch counters, and that's what we're seeing now. See, this is the party of hatred. This is the party of racism. When you see left-leaning liberals who tend to vote for Democrats, who tend to be a part of the Democrat Party, what they want to do is they want to manipulate, intimidate, in order to dominate.
That's right.
They did it back then, and they're trying to do it today. Shame on the Democrats for not allowing Sarah Sanders to sit at a table and have a meal. Think about that. That's the era that they're trying to put us in. Well, see, that's what they are. They just don't have the hoods on their heads today. And you got to understand the Democratic part.
That's right, and I don't need nobody interrupting me while I'm trying to eat my fried chicken.
That's right.
They didn't get that far, but, you know, it's interesting. They keep saying family, that she was with her family. And no one's asked the question, was she there with her children? We're in a Democratic state where we've paid the price for being Republicans.
Here's the thing I say. I'm all right with it. I always tell people, especially with this Sarah Sanders thing, listen, I don't care that they asked her to leave. I think it's embarrassing. I think it's stupid because, first of all, I want to know who these scumbags are. I want to know who these intolerant, hateful, spiteful people are. I don't want them to hide it, and now they're not hiding it. We're seeing exactly who they are. Here's the thing that I have to ask you guys. First of all, I'm the whitest guy you're ever going to meet. I can't dance. I am and literally can't get a tan. I didn't grow up in the inner city. I grew up in suburban America. I grew up very lower middle class. But when I look at the right and I look at my team, I see you girls. I see Ben Carson. I see Colonel Allen West. I see some of the most amazing, achieved black men and women in the history of this country. And you guys are despised by this party. And on the other side, you have tax fraud Al Sharpton, who's the biggest race baiter in history, and guys like that. And I wonder how the black community is gravitating towards repulsive pieces of garbage like that and not towards true Americans who've worked your asses off to become who you are.
But you have to understand that their condition, it's a condition. See, listen, when you've been fed the same narrative for year in, year out, you think that is normal. A lot of African Americans, black people, they think that it is normal to stay stuck in this box. They have to realize we have to now wake up and we have to really look at this here. Because after the first so-called African American president that we had for 8 years and nothing happened for these African American communities, like in Chicago and Detroit and Baltimore, you have to really look at the whole scenario here. That's right. Is it really white leaders that's keeping black America stuck, or is it our own that's keeping us stuck? So once we woke up, once Donald Trump shook us all awoke, and now we're paying attention, what we realize now is that we have been bamboozled and hoodwinked by our black leaders that tell us to keep pointing the fingers at a Republican, that tell us that all white people are supposed to be the racists, when the real race baiters are some of these black leaders like the Maxine Waters and the Al Sharptons and the Jesse Jackson, and they're very hypocritical. And let me tell you about the hypocrisy. Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton know President Trump very well because President Trump helped him out when it came to Jesse Jackson Rainbow Coalition. And when he was about to run for president, it was President Trump, then Donald Trump, that gave him a space for free to have his campaign office. So they know this man very well. And to get out here because the president now, Donald Trump was running for president, and now he's the president, and deem him as if he's a racist is appalling. Let me tell you something about Donald J. Trump. He is no racist. What he is a realist, and the only color he sees is green, and he wants you to have some of it, everybody. He wants America and the American people to be prosperous. That's right. Is what he wants. But when you see these black leaders that want to keep black America stuck in this box, talking about the statues, disrespecting the flag, it's not the white leaders, it's the black leaders that keeps people stuck in this box. And what Diamond and Silk decided to do, whoa. We don't need you feeding us a narrative anymore. We can think for ourselves, and if we choose to vote for a businessman who happens to be a white man, then we can. And that's exactly what we did.
That's right. And you know, by the way, why do black people have to have a black leader? We was all born with minds. Why can't we do it for ourselves?
We don't need nobody the head of us. We have our own head. It's a brain inside. Think for yourself.
That's right.
Do you think, though, that people are listening now?
Oh, absolutely.
Because the left is making fools of themselves, so it's not even like...
We got to understand the reason why they're doing this here is because they know that they're lucid. They know that black America is waking up, and they're like, you know what, it is something wrong with this. I have more money in my pocket, but these people telling me, no, we're going to take away that money. Just think about that for a minute. I can go and now pick and choose whatever job I want to choose, but these here, the Democrats are telling me, no. Black leaders are saying, no. You don't need that. You don't need that. See, they want to give you crumbs. They want to hand you crumbs. They want to give you enough to keep you quiet, but not enough to make a difference. Black people are waking up, and yes, let me tell you something. These same black people are going to be voting for Trump in 2020.
And there's so much that you guys just touched on that it's just hit the nail on the head. The fact of the matter is that when the black vote switched in the early 30s, in the late 1890s, it switched parties because of the fact that the Democrats became the welfare state.
Right.
And when they switched parties, they have allowed the inner city blacks to swim to keep their head above water, but they can never get out of the water and become their own. They can't get out of the inner city.
Right.
And I got to tell you, I think 150 some years after we fought a civil war to end slavery, this country elected a black president.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I didn't like the guy, it certainly made me feel good for the world to see that it doesn't matter, woman, man, black, white, who you are. The president of the United States can be any color. But I thought we were going to be at the precipice of 4 to 8 years of healing the divide between the black and white community, and he did the exact opposite. At the end of his administration, this country was more racially divided than it had ever been in my lifetime. And I think that is a tragedy that we missed that opportunity to fix things.
Right.
Well, first off, Barack Hussein Obama is not black. He is biracial. And the black side of him did nothing for the black community. He's from Chicago, and look at Chicago. He did not reach back to help Chicago. And now that he is out of office, he wants to build a $200 million library in Chicago where a lot of those children don't even reach the age to be able to read a book from a library because they're getting killed on the streets by the day.
So if he want to do a library, how about just do a little bookmobile?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what I say. But the deal is, you're absolutely right, Silk.
Mm-hmm.
And the deal is that the hypocrisy on how they do things and how the left spin things. And I think that Black America is waking up now.
That's right.
I think Black America is waking up, and we never would have saw this had it not been an Obama administration. We never would have saw any of this. We knew something was totally wrong. And when President Trump came along, I'm going to make America great. Again, I'm going to make it greater than we've ever seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring back jobs. I'm going to secure the border. If you secure your house and the White House secure, then our borders should be secure.
That's right.
You shouldn't outsource our jobs and leave the American people riding dirty. We have to have jobs so we can feed our families too. And then I hear everybody talking about the children at the border. All the children at the border. President Trump was following the same law that Obama followed. Okay? All right? He was following the same law, yet they want to demonize President Trump for following that law.
Mm-hmm.
The hypocrisy. But what about the children that's living in tents in California? What about those children? These are Americans. What about those children? You don't hear the left saying nothing about that. We just came back from Detroit. We was in Detroit visiting the inner cities. What about those children? Some of those children don't even get 3 meals, but these children on the border here, at least they get 3 meals a day. But some of these children in the inner city don't even get 3 meals a day. What about the left talking about that? Oh, they don't talk about that. What they try to do, they just use things as a political propaganda to push a narrative so that they can try to use that to win an election. Because what they're trying to do is pull at the heartstrings of people, and they say, this is the narrative. Children being abused. Well, we have millions of children right here in America that's being abused, that's not eating, and some of them don't even have a decent home, a decent bed to sleep in. What about those children? It is time for our government to take care of their own first. We cannot give what we don't have, and we can't give from a half-empty cup.
That's right.
2.5 million homeless children in the United States. 2.5 million. And do you know that it costs the American taxpayer $35,000 a child a year to take care of illegal children at the border? That is $11,000 over the poverty level. So these children at the border, they're being educated, fed, clothed, housed at a far higher rate than American kids born onto poverty. And there's 2.5 million of them sleeping on the street. And we're supposed to watch a $200 million library go up, and the liberals bitch about the border? Are you kidding me?
And guess what? President Obama has already got his kickback patty whack, give a dog a ball. You got your good Netflix deal. I'm quite sure you was paid millions for that. You got your little book deals, you and Michelle Obama. I'm quite sure you was paid millions for that. Come on, go somewhere and sit down somewhere and let our President Donald J. Trump make America greater than we've ever seen it before, for America and for the American people. Finally, we have someone working for us.
Well, I'm glad that that he came about now, because the way that the younger generation is going, they would have never gone for the way that things were. You know, we are trying to build an America now that was based on the morals and what America was made for. But this generation coming behind us has no idea. And I wanted to touch on I'm from Baltimore. you know, they talk horribly about Baltimore in the news. And so, you know, I feel pride because I'm from there. And I just don't know, how do we start to change that? Like, I think about that every day, going in and how do we get in there? Why is no one doing anything about it?
What's the first step to get to helping and healing the inner city?
Well, first of all, we have to stop allowing the government have to stop funding these sanctuary cities to house criminals and start using that money and start funding inner cities to help the inner city community. It's time for us to come together and unite as one race, and that's the human race. Look past the skin color and stop segregating ourselves from the process of being an American first.
Right.
That's the first thing we have to do. We got to get out of that mindset that it's us against them.
Right.
When we realize that we are part of this, then we can work together to make this great for all Americans, including the inner cities, Black America, and so forth.
Right. And then, you know, the more they hate, the more you educate. You have to educate people. You know, we're working on this movie called Democrats, right? It's going to be due out this fall. And we find it so interesting how when you talk to African Americans, how they don't know certain things, like they just didn't know. But when you break it down, they're appalled by it too. They are like, what? Oh my goodness! But nobody ever tell them. See, sometimes they don't want to cut off that reality TV and start looking at the reality of things.
Right.
This is what's going on around you, and if you don't pay attention, if you're not paying attention, a narrative can get pushed, a story, something can get pushed, and you don't even know what happened. And what they do, and this is what the left do. I'm going to give you enough because you're going to shut up. If I give you this Obama phone, you're going to be quiet about this foolishness that I'm pushing around you. You're not going to say nothing. And you cannot be whistling or dog whistling or just pulled in from a little Obama phone. I give you this to be quiet. No, you're going to have to speak out. It is unfair that Maxine Waters stay in a $4.3 million mansion and her district look horrible. You have homelessness in her district. Trash is everywhere in her district. And
she doesn't live there.
Are not thriving in her district.
She doesn't even live there.
She does not live in her district. But when the people don't understand what's going on, they tend to just vote because you're conditioned. Oh, we just vote because we're conditioned. But when you explain to people what's happening, here's what's happening. They are taken aback. They are like, what? They didn't even know. So our job is to go out and educate. Go out and tell people, here's what's going on. And that's what we're doing.
You go into the cities because it's just not African Americans in the cities. I mean, I know from Baltimore, these are large Polish families that have been living in those townhouses for years. Like, these are people that their feet are down, they're not moving, even though it's crumbling around them. Do you get to go into the cities and say, hey, look, will you listen to me just for a second and you know, take from what you want?
Yes, we do.
And do they come?
Absolutely love it. And I don't care whether you are black, whether you are white. We talk to all sorts of people. We have. You got to go. When a movie come out, I want everybody to go look at it. And you can find updates or whatever at dummycratsthemovie.com. Dummycratsthemovie.com.
Oh, my God.
Yes, that's what we do. That's what we do. Listen, you all. We know that the president is draining the swamp. Now it's time for us to expose the swamp because it's hard to drain the swamp when you have rats clogging the pipes.
That's right.
So you have to expose it. This is what happened, and you have to let the people see. And that's what we're doing.
Ladies, listen, I can't thank you enough. It's such an honor to meet you, too. God bless you. Keep safe. Keep doing what you're doing. You know you have a country behind you.
And let me know if you ever need a little sparkle when you go to.
We certainly will. And also, let's not forget that we're also doing our Chit Chat tour. So if you want to see Diamond and Silk and visit with Diamond and Silk, go to diamondandsilk.com, click on Chit Chat tour, and see where we're going to be coming to hopefully a city or state near you.
Yeah.
And we would love to see your face.
We'll do it.
Thank you.
All right. Ladies, take care of yourself.
Thank you.
We will. Thank you for having us.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about Breitbart News' Second Amendment newsletter, Downrange with AWR Hawkins. Features the top gun stories of the week, every week, and guest columnists like Gun Owners of America's Larry Pratt or Armed American Radio's Mark Walters. Also features a review of a firearm or a firearm accessory each week. The newsletter downloads on Thursday, comes right to your email inbox. You can subscribe at breitbart.com/AWR.
We want to hear from you. Tweet the show at Garrick38. Once again, here's Curt Schilling.
Welcome back, guys. I really am interested in helping people that listen to this podcast get more informed about the Second Amendment, get more informed about facts and the real world, get more informed about the level of violence in this country and in the inner city, and why it's smart to join the NRA, be a lifetime member, and get yourself educated. Dr. A.W.R. Hawkins and Mark Walters join me today. Good morning, guys. How are we?
Doing wonderful. Thanks, Curt, for having us on.
First question I want to ask you, and I'll back away, is you and I, Mark, and you and I, Doc, we've talked at multiple instances about Professor Gary Kleck's report from Florida State. Recently, the CDC report done in 1995 came to life. 2.6 million times per year, the CDC report claimed, a DGU occurred. A DGU is a defensive gun use when a law-abiding citizen uses a legally obtained firearm to defend their lives or someone else's lives or both. Why do we have a society today that believes that that's the exception than the rule? And I'll start with you, Mark. I'm wondering why that number isn't like plastered everywhere, not just by us, but by the NRA.
Great question and a legitimate question, and I'll start with this. Because we have a mainstream media in this country that gives voice to people like Maxine Waters. What I mean by that is agenda-driven politics is what drives the news, and it's propagandized. The mainstream media essentially has been weaponized against conservative Americans and the truth when it comes to the right to keep and bear arms now for many, many years. But if it were anti-gun, if those numbers were opposite from that, we would have heard about them probably before the study was even completed. We would have known which direction the study was going. But because the numbers provide the truth about what we've been talking about, and AWR's been writing about, and you've been talking about for many, many years, and John Lott and others, and that is that more guns do equal less crime, that good people with guns do stop bad guys with guns, as evidenced by some of the writings that AWR will no doubt reference in his comments, and that's because the facts prove us right, and it destroys their agenda. I'll turn it over to AWR for further explanation on that.
I mean, that's it. That's the left can only report. The difference between the left and conservatives report the truth. The left reports whatever helps their agenda, so they can't cover this. And Kleck's stuff has been it's been up since about 1993. No one's been able to refute it. People have tried to refute it in a light, fluffy way, but they haven't offered any empirical evidence. And Kleck's been very clear about that. He reaffirmed his figures in 2015, so 22 years after he originally put them forward. And he made clear no one's offered empirical evidence to refute him. So the media can't touch that, because if they try to touch it, it's going to burn them, and it's going to destroy this facade they push that guns are evil and that guns do not serve Americans well.
There's no reason to expound. I think you guys covered it both. I want to jump into something, a name you mentioned, Maxine Waters. I'm wondering, I said yesterday on my podcast that Maxine Waters is going to be the reason someone gets killed. She is going to be the reason somebody walks up to a law-abiding citizen and takes harassment too far, and that legally armed citizen is going to defend themselves as they are allowed to do by law, and someone's going to get killed, and then Maxine Waters is going to lead a march on Washington to abolish the Second Amendment because it's going to be the gun's fault. We're in a time and a place where confrontation is not only going to come, it's coming. But I'm wondering, and I'm asking both of your advice, and I'll start with you, A.W. I'm an armed citizen, and I'm legally concealed carrying. How do I evict myself from a potential public confrontation without it going too far? So I'm in a restaurant and somebody comes up and starts, yelling at my table. The sense that something's going to escalate into a physical confrontation, as a law-abiding citizen, how do I remove myself from that situation safely?
Well, I think you have to remove yourself quickly. But I also think you have to ask two questions. How can that other person evict themselves before it gets nasty? If you look, and I'm not advising violence against these people, but if you look at like the situation with Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, I've never met her in person, but she doesn't look like a large person to me. And she had three huge men get right in her face, said that they were so close to her face they were spitting on her when they were yelling at her. And, you get that kind of situation going, and then Maxine Waters is going to heighten it by pushing these people to be even more aggressive, to surround what you say. If you see a Trump supporter at a gas station, at a restaurant, surround them, let them know they're not welcome. There is, I agree with what you're saying. What she's done is going to end up getting somebody shot because one of these protesters who supports what Waters is saying is going to go too far. They're going to go from screaming and spitting to pushing and slapping. And when that happens, it's going to be hard for maybe a small, petite Trump supporter to not feel like their life's in danger. And so I think all the way around, people are going to have to get their mind right. I think Trump supporters might, as bad as it sounds, they might want to think about certain locations they shouldn't go to for a while. But on the other hand, these protesters who are supporting Waters are going to have to think, you know what? If I cross the line and make these people feel like their life's in danger, in most states, they'll become justified in responding, even with a handgun. I know that sounds crazy to some people, but that's how the law is written. In most states where you have something like stand your ground, all you have to be able to demonstrate is that you felt your life was in danger. And I think there are certain situations where we've already gotten close to that a couple of times. It's a crazy time in America, but it's being pushed over the edge, not by the GOP, not by Trump supporters. It's being pushed over the edge by the Democrats.
We got blamed for the violence against Trump supporters at Trump events. I mean, it's insane. But, Mark, I'll ask you the same question, Mark. I'm not going to wait to find out if there's lethal danger on the other side of a confrontation.
Well,
if that makes sense.
First of all, I agree with everything A.W.R. Hawkins said, and I would even go a step further, and I would say that there was a day in America not too long ago that the three of us are old enough to remember when Maxine Waters' comments would not have been simply brushed over by Chuck Schumer on the floor of the Senate failing to name her name, or Nancy Pelosi failing to name her name, but she would have been ostracized, she would have been censored, and the Democrats wouldn't have had a problem naming her name because they all know that supposedly as Americans we're all in this together. The left has washed themselves of that years ago, okay? And as AWR just mentioned, maybe there are some things that some places that Trump supporters ought not go for a time being. I haven't heard this question being asked. Let's go to that Red Hen restaurant in Lexington, Virginia. It saddens me. I have a long history in Virginia, and I know people that live in Lexington. I graduated college in Virginia and lived there for many years. My sister still lives there, and it saddens me. But I mean, what would have happened if I question? What would happen if I walked into that restaurant wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat? Would I be asked to leave? Has this woman put herself in a position now, with what she did with Sanders, that no Republican is welcome to eat in her establishment? Is that where we've gotten, or not even just a Republican, but a Trump supporter? Yes. And we gotten to the point where this woman has said no Republican is allowed to eat here. Now, back to the question of violence. I would submit to you and to AWR and Curt, to you, that if any of the three of us who have a public forum, microphones and pens, had said something similar to what Maxine Waters said, I'd probably tell you that there'd be people calling for me to be off the airwaves immediately, and probably you as well, using the same rhetoric, the very same rhetoric. The left would say that we were calling for the political assassination and violence of our political quote-unquote enemies. And this is a very dangerous point that we've put ourselves at in America. And look, in large part, we're responsible for some of this. I know this is a point of contention for some conservatives, but we watched this happen as conservatives. Yeah. We knew this was happening, and we allowed it to happen to a certain extent. We allowed our schools to become infiltrated. We allowed the left to hijack our culture in Hollywood. We allowed our politicians to get to the point where Maxine Waters can say this, and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and the rest of these clowns will not name her by name and ostracize her themselves on the floor of the Senate, but instead kind of let us know who it is by just not mentioning her name because they don't, they're afraid of this woman? I want to know who's voting for this clown. We're in a very dangerous place in America. Someone's going to get hurt. The left isn't considering the fact that it's more than likely going to be one of them if they push somebody too far. I would venture to say Pam Bondi's probably armed, by the way. I don't know, AW, if you'd get as the Attorney General of Florida, I would suggest she probably is.
I would also probably suggest that these people won't be going out in public alone anymore. And it won't be an armed, uniformed police officer. They will
no,
probably
and nor
be
should they. And
informed.
AWR wrote about it just yesterday, that these people need to be arming themselves, and the call for them to do so is now being made very loudly.
The question is, will we get to a point where someone feels as if their life is threatened? And I would say that's absolutely going to happen, simply because I can go on YouTube every day and find a video of somebody confronting somebody else. And I pray to God it doesn't happen. And unlike the left, who is wishing failure at every turn, I don't want to see something like this happen, because it's going to be exactly what I said. They're going to march on Washington for more common sense gun control when someone defends their life.
I'm like you. I don't want it to happen, and I mean that wholeheartedly. It's ignorant that we're at this point, and the left has pushed us to this point. But I do believe the benefit for the law-abiding citizen at this point is that Trump is on the side of the law-abiding citizen, and I believe his response to Maxine Waters made that clear when he said, "Maxine, be careful what you wish for," and he wasn't saying that toward her in a threatening manner. Right. What he was saying is, look, you're pushing this to a point that someone's going to get hurt. And I believe that's the advantage the law-abiding citizen has right now, is we have a president who understands his supporters aren't the people doing this. This is being pushed upon them, right. And it's still an ugly situation. But I believe at least we are living under a president who understands what it means to keep and bear arms, who understands why we have those guns. And I just think that's an important point to throw into the mix.
I think we can all comfortably look at this situation and this scenario, and I don't see de-escalation. I don't see somebody standing up and say, hey, let's let calmer heads prevail. I see the exact opposite. I see the left doubling down. You had Maxine Waters coming on yesterday saying, I stand by what I said. I wasn't asking anybody to harass or hurt somebody in public, which is exactly what she said. I played the sound earlier. That's exactly what she said. It's almost humorous if it wasn't so dangerous. The fact that the Red Hen restaurant was an example of, apparently the staff there were LGBTQ people, and they mentioned that, and the fact that those are a group of people who are fighting for tolerance, practicing a level of intolerance that takes me back to the counters of the white-only stores in 1940s, 50s, and 60s.
Expand my rights at the expense of yours, Kurt, is basically what you're saying, which is what that tolerant group wants to do. Expand my rights at the expense of yours. Look, there's a couple things. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel either. I'm with you, and that frightens me. Andy Biggs, Republican out of Arizona, has introduced a measure calling on Maxine Waters to be, at the very least, censured, and then at the max, asking her to resign and apologize. Now, that's never going to happen with Maxine Waters. I don't know what will happen in the House as to whether or not that will gain any steam or not. I'd like to say I think it would. I mean, I go back to the days of, and again, we're all old enough to remember when, Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. I don't think Tip O'Neill would have ever put up with this type of activity when he was the Speaker of the House. I have no idea. Paul Ryan, to my knowledge, has been silent on this. I don't really care what he says at this stage of the game. It doesn't matter. But this all stems from one thing. The progressive left is absolutely insane right now because they were defeated by Donald Trump. And nothing highlights that more than a New York Mag column out there right now, and some comments of our favorite guy out there, and that's Eric Holder, who was commented in this. But the left is crazy. The New York has a piece out. Where is Barack Obama? Literally begging for him to come back. Help us, Daddy. We need you. And it is insane to read, but they are desperate. They are frightened to death that Trump's America, which is the rule of law, the right to keep and bear arms, the closing of our borders, is actually going to win the day. And it is going to win the day, and it's winning the day, and it's driving them absolutely batty to the point, as AWR was talking about, and as you were mentioning, that Maxine Waters is making these incendiary comments. And the bottom line is, while we all hope and pray nothing happens, when it does, we can all chalk it up to the rhetoric coming from the left, who is just simply insane right now. And it is. It's like you said, it's humorous to watch, but at the same time, it's very, very frightening. And I like you, I don't see the light at the end of this tunnel.
The frightening part of that is we're watching a government who we supposedly elect and put into power to protect and to provide safety and security for citizens that's corrupt at the highest levels. Add that to the mix, and I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't see a de-escalation because the media is going to ratchet this up. I mean, I believe Newt Gingrich. I think we're going to gain 4 to 6 seats in the midterms, and they're going to be apoplectic after that. And when that happens,
I agree with you. I think AWR probably does too. I think you're going to see a pickup in the Senate and the House, and then you're going to see the media melt down even further. And by the way, guys, just one thing, and I'll get off my soapbox, but I believe we can lay about 90% of this problem right at the feet of the mainstream press, who is causing tremendous damage to the psyche in the nation. To the psyche of this nation with this horrific reporting that they're up to right now by pushing this agenda. It's very dangerous, and the media is about 95% responsible for what we're seeing.
I think what we realize too, though,
Go ahead.
the left is losing. That's why they sound the way they sound, and they're cornered. And I believe, like you said, Kurt, I agree with Newt. We'll pick up these seats, and at some point, I know the left is not given the common sense, and I understand that, or logic, but at some point the writing on the wall will even be evident to them. I really believe it. I believe that if we could steamroll them November 2018, we could live 2 years under the rest of this one term of Trump. We could live 2 of the best years in America that any of us will ever remember, and I really believe that. I believe Trump has dismantled and taken apart the left to such a degree, particularly the Democrat Party, that if we can win in 2018, all those things we used to talk about, Kurt, concealed carry national reciprocity, the Hearing Protection Act, all those kinds of things, we can not only talk about them, we can realize them. And I think it's ours to win right now, and that's what we have to realize.
Yeah, in the same breath, AWR brilliantly said it's also ours to lose. It's also ours to lose. We could flip either way, but the point that I'm making is the choice is ours right now. Literally, the choice is ours. When you watch the Democrat Party, and that is the left right now, melting down to the point they are because, as you said, they're scared and they're cornered. They know that's all signs of desperation. And when you get desperate, when you fall into the water without a life jacket, you're probably going to drown instead of keeping your cooler head about you. And that's what we're witnessing here. I believe that this could be, as we've talked about before, both of us on both of our shows, we are witnessing what could be the death of progressive liberalism to the extent we've seen it manifest itself throughout the Obama years. That's all coming to a close. Trump has shut the door on that, and they are absolutely livid. Absolutely livid. But I'm with you guys. I'm with Newt. I think we pick up seats in the House. I think we pick up seats in the Senate. And the question that I would ask both of you then is the reaction that we're seeing from the left today. What do you think will happen after that occurs? Boy, that's almost frightening to even ask.
You know what? We're gonna wrap up, and that's absolutely a topic. I want a couple days to put together a scenario for you guys, and next week, hopefully, when we get back together, we can put that scenario together and talk about it as it relates. And by the way, let me just make sure you guys all know Mark Walters is on Armed American Radio every day from 3 to 5 Eastern, and AW's podcast Bullets is out every Tuesday on Breitbart.com, along with the Curt Schilling podcast. So, gentlemen, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Love you, Kurt. Thanks.
Kurt.
I could keep going all day.
All right, brothers. You guys take care. Mark Walters, Armed American Radio, Dr. A.W.R. Hawkins, Breitbart's Second Amendment author, editor, writer, and leader. Thanks again to Diamond Silk, Mark Walters, A.W.R. Hawkins. Today's winner, Mark Levin, has been nominated and elected to the Radio Hall of Fame. Well-deserved, well-earned. A finer American does not exist. Brilliant man who I wish was cloned and teaching in all of our schools. And the loser today was just it was probably the most lopsided vote in the history of losing days. Maxine Waters, the despicable, repulsive human being, calling for violence on conservatives across the country, and pray to God she doesn't get what she's hoping for. Tomorrow, Colonel Alan West joins me, and always a great conversation with an amazing man, an amazing American, Colonel Alan West tomorrow. You guys have a great day. God bless. Thank you guys for tuning in. Catch up with you guys tomorrow.